Hello friends, welcome back. Tomorrow we leave for Florida. It's our first time flying with Miles. He's about 6.5 months old, and I figured I would just kind of bring you guys along. So I thought I'd just sort of like share our experience. I know flying with a baby is something a lot of parents worry about, especially new parents. I figured I would just share with you really quickly some of how we're packing. So this is our big suitcase. We could probably fit everything in here, but we're just not going to because of weight. But we put all of our really light stuff in here. So I use these packing cubes, which are really great, especially for babies, because they just have so much stuff and their stuff is like so tiny. So all of Miles' stuff is in packing cubes. I have a packing cube for toys. This one is like linens, and then there's one underneath that's all of his clothes. And then Michael and I have our clothes in here as well. Then we're just bringing a small extra suitcase, and I'm gonna put heavier stuff in here. So I have his clip-on high chair. This is like his toiletries, if you will, and then we'll be putting like our toiletries in here. I make myself lots of lists so I don't forget what to bring. So this is the stroller bag, and I actually was able to put the pack and play cover in here as well. This is the car seat bag. We borrowed this from a friend because we didn't own one, and it's huge. Like, it's big enough to carry a toddler-sized car seat. So there's extra space in here. So I threw two things in there. There's a blanket, and then there's his diaper bag. And then for now, I just have his carrier in here that I'll throw on when we get to the airport, since obviously he's going to be in the car seat on the way to the airport. Last but not least is my carry-on, which has a nice stain on it. That's nice. This is my portable changing mat that I always use. I gotta throw some more diapers in here. I'm gonna throw a couple of, what is this? An old granola bar wrapper that I definitely don't need. Gonna throw a couple of burp cloths in there, a couple of sleep and plays. I have my nursing cover in here. I have a change of clothes for me in there because babies spit up, and I don't want to have to sit and spit up all day if that happens, which is just like some pacifiers and a teether. And the last thing I have is just my bag that I will like pull out because it's liquids. So I have a hand sanitizer in there, and then I also packed infant Tylenol. My pediatrician suggested it because he said if Miles was having trouble like with his ears popping because of the altitude, that it would help. And then the last thing that I'm putting in my carry-on is actually a cooler with just a bunch of frozen purees that I've made for him. And then when I come home, the cooler will have any breast milk that I have pumped while we're on vacation. Both of these things, baby food and breast milk, you're allowed to bring, you're allowed to bring as a carry-on with you. Here's one other packing cube that I'm bringing. This is all like food related things. I'm not bringing my pump with me because I figured this is my vacation too, but I am bringing my manual pump and my Haka just in case I need something, and then a couple of extra bottles. All right, we are on our way. We are leaving 20 minutes late. Not too bad. I mean, I don't want to brag, but me and the baby were ready. What is it about husbands? We are going to drop our car off at the car place and then shuttle over to the airport. We got our off the car, got all our bags into the airport, good to go. Apparently you need your baby's birth certificate to prove that they're under the age of 2 to fly. We did not know this. So luckily we were able to call our pediatrician, and they're faxing over a medical form to Southwest so that we can get on our plane. Hopefully this is the only big snafu we fall into. Guys, I jinxed us by saying that I hope nothing else went wrong because our flight has been delayed 2 hours. So we're just gonna hang out in the terminal. I'm feeding Miles, then Michael and I are gonna eat, and I'm not gonna say that I hope nothing else goes wrong, I don't want to jinx anything else. I guess the moral of the story is I tried to like plan Miles' eating and naps all accordingly so that like he'd be ready to eat and then nap right when we got on the plane. You can't plan. I mean, let alone with babies, but babies and air travel, you just gotta go with the flow. Well, if you have a delay, get snacks. Michael, what'd you get?
Low carb, keto.
Super keto.
Cheese.
Super keto.
And a keto McDonald's french fry.
I decided to try to get something healthy, which is always a bad idea at an airport because it's always just like, but I got this tofu bowl. It's not so bad. I'm gonna take Miles out for a little while and let him kind of hang out and hope that that gets him tired so that he takes a nap. I feel like a big part of flying with babies is just like a head game. Like if you get worried and nervous and like stress out with everything that goes wrong, then it's just gonna go worse. So you gotta just like roll with the punches. We are killing time. Michael is having a martini. Michael doesn't like to fly, so that's how cool people drink their martinis. All right, my friends, flash forward. I'm now home from vacation. We kind of got separated from my camera. Kind of just want to share with you guys like the rest of the experience. So on our way there, our flight got delayed 2 hours. And then when we boarded the plane, it's Southwest, which is open seating. So on the way there, we got Group A. So we got better choice for seating, and we were able to get the frontmost seat. Now, I like the frontmost seat because you get ton more leg room. It's just way more comfortable with a baby. When the seatbelt sign came undone, I was able to stand up with Miles, and there was a little spot where I could sort of stand with him. But an important thing to know is if you get that frontmost seat, you cannot have your bags with you during taxiing, landing, or takeoff. They have to go in the overhead compartment. It was worth it to not have my bag during those times to be able to have all the extra leg room with Miles. But a little trick so that you know if you're flying with young children, you actually always get to board between groups A and group B, and people actually sort of line up by the gate, not where the A and B section is, but there's like a separate area where the families line up. A lot of people debate, is it better to have the window seat or the aisle seat? I chose the window seat because I nursed Miles during takeoff and during landing. I heard that it would help him with his ears popping due to the altitude. I don't know if it did, but he didn't get fussy during takeoff or during landing, and it actually kind of helped him fall asleep as well. So both times the flight was like almost 3 hours, and he slept for maybe like 2 hours of each flight. The rest of the time he was awake, and he just kind of, you know, hung out. We had a toy, we kind of bounced him. We passed him back and forth between Michael and I. So I was kind of nervous about like, well, what am I gonna do if he's awake on this plane? But you know, we kept him entertained. So now that I've done it, what do I suggest you have on your carry-on for your baby? Obviously Miles is only 6 months, this is going to be different. Maybe if your baby's a little younger, a little older. The things that really we made sure that we had that really mattered was a pacifier. I had my nursing cover, which some people don't really care about having nursing cover. They're comfortable nursing and not worrying about being covered. I like having nursing cover because it just makes me feel more comfortable nursing in public. I feel like I can do it anywhere and not have to worry about it, especially on an airplane and an airport where there are people everywhere. There's not really any private space. And actually, to be honest, the nursing cover ended up being a good little hack because after he fell asleep, I was able to sort of keep him under the nursing cover after he fell asleep, and it kind of acted like blackout curtains a little bit, so it stayed nice and dark in there and allowed him to continue sleeping. I packed one of his big muslin cloths to have for like spills if he spit up or whatever. It also was great to just like if I needed to throw it down on the ground, if I needed to put him down, I needed to lay him down. It was a barrier between like him and the ground in the airport. And then I just brought like 2 or 3 little toys. I didn't overstock my carry-on with a bunch of stuff. I think I brought 2 toys maybe. You know, at this age they can be entertained by a lot. We used like napkins and straws and all sorts of other things to entertain them as well. I didn't want to be bogged down with a bunch of stuff because I find the more stuff that ends up in your bag, the harder it is to find what you need when it's time. So another tip that I will give you, obviously it's best if your baby can be kind of sleepy when you get on the plane, because obviously sleeping through the plane ride is best. So for us, we chose to go for flights during nap time because the flight was under 3 hours. If it was going to be a longer flight, I probably would have done an overnight flight, so it would have coincided with his nighttime sleep, so he could have just like assumed it was bedtime and slept longer. And what we did is once we got basically checked in and through TSA, we tried to just keep Miles awake. And what I like to do at home is just, you know, do things that are going to sort of stimulate him, because basically my thought process is I'm just trying to sort of like fill up his sleepy cup so that he'll be tired when it's time to fly. I did wear him through TSA, and I had my carrier just in case I needed to be hands-free. It was really easy to carry him through security and really easy to carry him through when it was time to board. But in between those 2 times, I took him out of the carrier and I let him, you know, look around. We stopped at a restaurant. I even a few times took that big big muslin cloth that I packed and just threw it down on the floor and let him have a little bit of tummy time. It helped prevent him from just getting like really antsy. Also, can we appreciate my shirt today? It says Mama Needs Coffee. One of you guys who follows me on Instagram actually messaged me. She makes these shirts and she sells them on Etsy. She makes a bunch of different ones, but this one was obviously my favorite and I thought it was really cute. I'll link her down below. Now, as far as the big debate, do you check the stroller or do you bring the stroller through security and gate check it? For us, not having the stroller worked fine. Obviously, we just had one baby. With two babies, you might want a stroller, but it was just so much easier to use our carrier. Going through security with the carrier was so easy. You don't have to take your baby out of the carrier. They're gonna have you go through the metal detector instead of like that x-ray machine. And then they usually will do that like test on your hand, which I'll be honest, I don't even know what they're testing for. Probably like certain chemicals. I'm not really sure. And it was really easy and really, really simple and so much easier than having to lug around our stroller and then break it down and all of that. Another tip I will say is, especially if it's your first time flying, particularly your first time flying with a baby on this airline, is always call the airline ahead of time and make sure you're not missing anything. If you saw, when we flew Southwest and we got there and we were ready to check in and they're like, hi, we need the baby's birth certificate. And Michael and I just looked at each other with like deer in headlights because we had no idea that we needed a baby's birth certificate. And apparently this is not a very common thing because when I shared it on Instagram stories, so many of you were like, what the heck, I fly all the time with my baby and I've never needed a birth certificate. Just call your airline ahead of time and make sure you're not missing anything when it comes to having the baby with you. My last tip with flying with babies is a lot of it, I think I maybe already said this, is a little bit of a mind game. Most people are a little bit anxious, they're a little nervous, you don't want to be the person on the plane with the crying baby, but at the end of the day, you can't really plan it all perfectly, and you don't know what a baby's gonna do. You don't know if they're gonna be fussy, you don't know if they're gonna freak out. You can only plan so much, and then you kind of just gotta be like, all right, Jesus, take the wheel, you know? So I think some of it is just like not stressing, not worrying. If your baby starts to get fussy, if your baby starts crying, like don't stress about it. Don't worry about what all these people on the plane are thinking, like, oh great, I'm stuck next to the family with the baby. And just focus on your child and do the best that you can. Nobody's gonna die because they listened to a baby cry. So anyways, I hope this was helpful to some of you guys. I know flying and traveling with babies for the first time is definitely nerve-wracking, and hopefully this video makes some of you feel a little bit better if you're planning to do it for the first time. It really was not that bad. It's not something to stress about, but it's so worth it. You should definitely take trips with your children, visit family, do all of that. Don't let the fear of flying with children or the fear of throwing off their sleep schedule prevent you from like having these memories with your children. It's so worth it. I'm gonna share a couple more sort of just general traveling with baby tricks that I sort of learned from this trip. Obviously, I'm no expert, but these were just some things that I did that worked for us, and I'm gonna share those in a blog post that I'm gonna post with this video. So I will link that down below if you're looking for some more like overall tips. But I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you all in my next video.